Hey, what's going on, guys? You are listening to Talk4, the quickfire podcast where we ask four great questions to unique and interesting people. Up here today on Talk4 is your host, Skupien. That's me. And our guest for today, Jake Kelfer, who will be in the firing line for today's questions. Jake, please introduce yourself and give us a quick rundown of what you do before I shoot some questions.
Yeah, man. First of all, great to be here. Super excited about this. So a little bit about me is I've worked for Los Angeles Lakers. I've written 3 books. I've spoken all over the world as a motivational speaker, and I've built an event that's helped over 70 NBA draft prospects sign their first contract. But my main focus now, after all of that experience, is really focusing on helping entrepreneurs write and launch nonfiction books so that they can grow their business and have that, oh my gosh, I actually did it feeling when they get their book.
Brilliant. No, very cool guy. I've been following your pages and your Instagram and stuff for quite a while now, and I love the energy you bring to, what you do and the work you put out and the content you produce. I think it's fantastic, and I'm really excited to ask a few questions about stuff.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you saying that. I have a lot of fun creating the content and doing what we do, so I'm excited to dive in.
I can tell. Right. So without further ado, let's go straight into question number 1. I first came across you in your live video with Steve Sims, who was one of my guests also. And what stood out for me about you was you having a really confident and totally non-camera shy personality that really gives great energy in your content. So my question is, how can people learn to be less camera shy, really express their personality and get confidence in their content? Was it something you were born with, or if not, how did you develop it?
Man, that's a deep question. Starting off with number 1, I love it. So look, let's break this down a little bit. I think naturally, I definitely have a natural tendency to have more energy and to be excited. But I think there's also a lot that can be learned when it comes to these types of things, whether it's not being camera shy, whether it's having big energy, or whether it's, developing relationships and creating content. And so what I kind of say here is this: look, wherever you're starting from is a great place because that's where you're starting from. And it's not like you have another choice to do it. And so what I would really focus on here is, if you want to be less camera shy, practice. If you want to create better content, practice. If you want to get better at anything, it starts with practice. When I work with NBA athletes, and you as an athlete know this yourself, is the only way to get better is to practice. Now, the second thing that we have to do is we have to practice with intention. All right. Now, if you just practice the wrong thing, you're not going to get any better. You're just going to get better at the wrong thing. And so when it comes to being camera shy, when it comes to creating content, we need to practice with intention, meaning we need to learn from people that are doing it really well. And then we try to model after them. We don't copy, but we can model after them. We need to see what are other people doing. And then we need to practice what we know works. And that's going to enable us to get a little bit better. The final thing that I'll mention related to this is, nobody knows what you're saying until you say it. And a lot of times when we're on camera or we're creating content, we're creating it all beforehand. And it's normally just us, or if you have a team, it's you and your team, but it's not live. It's rarely live. And so if you're creating stuff on camera and you're a little bit shy, we'll pre-record it. Practice it. Give a couple different takes. Practice bigger energy. Practice smiling. Show positive emotions. Use hand gestures. And that will slowly start to help you feel more comfortable. And then over time, when you practice with intention, you're going to be able to see some great results and be able to see your improvement, which is going to allow you to say, okay, I've improved. Now I can improve even further.
That's absolutely perfect and so well put. Can I just say, this buzz you have is so good, man. I can feel it. Like I just want to get going on question number 2 right now. Like, it's just the stuff that you're putting out. You can just tell you've got this great energy, this great buzz to you. The way you say things, it's just so much passion in there. It really invokes great positive emotions and stuff. I can see exactly why you've done so well.
Yeah, dude, I appreciate that. And look, it comes down to this sense of feeling, right? We all know how good it feels when someone else has like positive energy. They ask us a question. They're curious because it feels really good. And then we say, oh my gosh, I want to be around that person more. Yeah. Well, I've studied people so much and I've had so many interactions, and I've realized that what does all of these interactions that are my favorite memories have in common? It was a sense of feeling loved, feeling heard, feeling validated, feeling like I belonged, right? And knowing that, I can try to create the tonality of my voice, the energy that I bring to help create that sensation, that feeling in other people, to give them an opportunity to feel that same enjoyment, that same understanding. And that's why I really try to focus on is my energy. Because even if I don't say the greatest things, my energy will be transferred and people pick up on that just like you're doing. And hopefully all the listeners are doing right now. So hit me with question 2. I'm ready to go. Let's fire it up.
Brilliant. Love it. Okay. So what, in your opinion, makes a book a best-selling book? Are there any tips you have for authors that want their book to be great? And are there any unique features in your books that you feel will set them apart? Oh, that's a great question.
So there's a lot of things that make a book a bestseller, right? At the very baseline, literal definition of it is you have to hit number 1 in a particular category to become a bestseller, right? Literally, that's what means a bestseller. But the things that help you create a best-selling book come down to, what is your intention? Comes down to, is your content relevant to your desired reader? Do you have the ability to connect through your words? Do you have a great cover? Look, a lot of times we say in life with people, don't judge a book by its cover, right? Because people are full of surprises. But when you're creating a book and you're trying to have a bestseller, literally people are going to judge your book by its cover. So when we work with people who want to relaunch their book or who are writing a book for the first time, I really focus on the 5 C's, which are connection, clarity, content, call to action, and cover. And if you do those things, you're going to be able to create a bond with your reader that'll inspire them to take an action, to buy your book, to leave a review, to spread it word of mouth, to invest with you at a higher level. But by creating that, it goes back to what we talked about earlier, which is you have to create this feeling in someone else that makes them excited about it. So a best-selling book literally is becoming number 1. But what makes up a best-selling book is having the right elements, the 5 C's, having the right intention that allow you to connect at the deepest level with your reader so that it allows you to be able to share it and be proud of it so that we can talk about it more and invite people to purchase it, read it, share it, and review it.
That's a really good answer. And the books I've found that invoke the best kind of positivity and have lasting impact to me tend to be the ones that have that sort of uniqueness as well. Some of the books I've been reading recently, I've found they get quite repetitive sometimes, but some of the ones I've also been reading recently, they have this kind of a unique message or a unique sort of a aspect to them. And then that kind of piques your interest. And then if there's stuff in there that you can take action on as well, I've always found that that's given me the biggest sort of benefit factor from reading books personally. What do you find when you read books? I'm sure you read lots of books as well. What do you find when you read kind of sets a book apart and makes it a favorite for you?
I love reading. I mean, the things that I really love is when I can complete it. So I don't really like the super long chapters, right? Because oftentimes I'm like, okay, let me get a couple of chapters done, and it feels like I'm making progress. It feels like I'm getting closer to the end, even if the chapters are 3 of 5 pages versus 1 of 15 pages. The one with 3 chapters, I feel like I've read more. That wants me to keep going, so then I could cross it off. Another thing that I really like in books is when there's a combination of things that I can actionably do. And let me preface this. We're talking about nonfiction books here, right? Motivational. We're talking self-help, personal growth, development books. When I'm looking at these, I love to hear stories, whether it's of the author's personal experience or whether it's stories that they've heard or that they've experienced or that they've seen, mixed with practical advice. Because oftentimes we read a nonfiction book because we like the author or we like the topic. And more often than not, we're aiming to get a result out of reading the book. We want to have takeaways. We want to be able to apply it to our life or our business or our relationships. And so what I really look for is, do they have a personal touch that I can relate to? Do they have great calls to action? Or do they have great actionable exercises that I can implement right away? And then, does it flow? Does it actually do what it says it's going to do when the title and the subtitle, when I read that? And when I look at it, some of the books that are my favorite are Atomic Habits. That's one of my favorite books. And the reason I love it so much is there's great evidence, there's great experience, there's great stories, but there's also so much great goodness that I can apply right away, right after reading the book. So I think those are some of the things that make up my favorite books and some of the things that I always try to tell people when they're writing their own to find ways to include. And we take them through that entire process to help them be able to do that, to give them the best chance of creating a book that other people will really love to read.
Thank you very much, Jake. That's fantastically put as well. I mean, you're crushing these questions right now, dude. I'm loving this. I'm getting so much out of it as well. Question number 3. This is going to be a good one. I can just tell you're going to go off on this. Right. So when you are talking to a crowd or a large gathering of people, what do you feel fires people up the most when you're motivating a crowd? Do you have any specific methods or things that you do that you feel have an electric effect when you speak?
Yeah, you're right. I do like this question. I think for me, I'd love speaking in front of crowds, and that crowd could be 5 people or 5,000 people. What I love most, though, is when I'm in the crowd and I'm giving that speech, is seeing people nod their head, creating a response right away, right off the bat. And the way that I really try to focus on that is, first and foremost, great energy. I think great energy can really, really make or break a presentation, regardless of the topic. And some of the ways that I use great energy is at the base level, hand gestures. All right, look, I got these really bushy, great big eyebrows, and I used to be super, super insecure about them growing up. But now, as a speaker, now in life, in the work that I do with relationships, my eyebrows are one of the easiest ways to be able to non-verbally connect with my audiences. So whether that audience is 1 person or 1,000 people, again, my eyebrows, I could raise them up a little bit and people will notice it. If they say something, I raise my eyebrows, people notice it. If I say something, raise them up, people, I invite them to join, right? Using different hand gestures, where a simple one that you can use when you're talking with someone is, instead of having your fingers pointed at them and your palms are down, that's more commanding, that's more directive. But when you flip your hands up and you have your palms open, it's more of an invitation, like you're bringing them in rather than pushing them away. A subtle switch like that could really connect with the person that you're speaking to at a much, much deeper level. So energy, those hand gestures, and then to kind of finish it all up here, related to this is, don't be afraid when you're speaking to audiences of whatever size, is you don't have to know everything. You don't have to pretend that you know everything. You don't have to try to be the presenter you hope that they're looking for. Be the presenter that you are and give the best of yourself, because that's going to translate the best to the audience at that time. Nobody wants someone trying to be somebody else. We want you. We want the rawness. We want your quirkiness. We want who you are, your humor. And if you prepare well enough, you're going to be able to deliver greatness because of who you are as a person. So those are a couple tips that are really, really relevant for speaking to audiences of any sizes and developing deeper connection.
I really like your points there, especially about how you can use your whole body really to portray those emotions, portray that energy, because I think with people who might be just starting, for example, if I was just starting, I've never done a public speech before, but if I was, I'd be thinking more about the speech side of things and how I'm talking and what I'm saying. I wouldn't really be thinking so much about body language and how to sort of promote what I'm saying extra with those added, full body kind of actions and portraying that energy as well. I think that's a really, really relevant point, like you said, and thank you very much for putting it in there.
Yeah, man. And look, that's skill sets that you develop over time, right? Nobody steps on stage and is just the greatest speaker ever, right? A lot of times when people are first given a speech or a presentation, their focus is, I don't want to mess up. Their focus is, I just got to make sure I get the words out of my mouth, right?
Yeah.
And then as you get more familiar, and this is where preparation comes in, not memorization, but preparation. This is where preparation comes in, because once you're prepared, you know that you'll be able to perform at the base level. Then you can start to add the fun extra things that enhance your ability to perform. And that's when you really go from a good speaker to a great speaker. That's when you go from, this was good, but now the audience is like, holy smokes, this person, like, that was one of the best things I've ever heard. There's certain subtlety changes that you can make and as you keep having more experience. But I hope that kind of helps and even breaks it down a little further for both yourself and for everyone that's listening.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And Let's get on to question number 4 now, I think. And our final question. Oh, I can't wait to hear what you say about this as well. What is the most effective way to network? How do you get in the right rooms with the right people and big names? Is it about social media presence, going to events, messaging these people, or other?
Everything works. Okay. Everything works, but you have to be willing to do it. All right. Now listen to this. Everything works, but that doesn't mean everything works for you. What we have to do when it comes to networking is we have to first and foremost understand how we communicate and make sure that we can be our authentic self. When you can be proud of who you are and realize your strengths and your weaknesses with communication, you can figure out ways to set yourself up to build better relationships with different types of people. Second component to this is when it comes to building and growing your network. And there are so many tips and tricks that I talk about in my book, Elevate Your Network. But one of the things that I really want to mention here is asking good questions. One of the best skill sets that you can have when building your network is asking good questions. And here's what I mean by that is when you ask questions, a lot of times people ask very mundane, basic questions that people responding to have common answers. They have rehearsed answers because they've been asked these questions over and over again. When you can ask a question that's framed differently, that creates an emotional response, you're going to be able to get a better response, which makes it easier to follow up the conversation. Let's break this down one step further. I could ask you, what's the best piece of advice you've ever heard? A lot of people get asked that question. What instead you could say is, well, what's the one thing you wish you would have known when starting your business or starting your career? Immediately what you've done, instead of just asking for advice, which you'll get a general answer, you're actually going to now take them down memory lane to when they were first beginning, when they were struggling. Now they're going to give you an answer that often will come with an experience or a story. That then sets you up to listen, to ask follow-up questions, and to show them that you hear them. That's a game changer when it comes to an initial phase relationship when you're really trying to get to know someone right off the bat.
Fantastic. So now before we call it a day, it is time for the shameless plug. Jake, please feel free to take a minute and promote anything you're working on, want people to take a look at, or just something you believe in.
Absolutely, man. I think I appreciate you giving me a chance to share what I'm working on. Really excited about all the things that we have coming here. The big thing is, if you want to get a copy of my book, The Elevated Entrepreneur, where I interview some of the world's greatest coaches, performers, and entrepreneurs, you can grab a free copy at theelevatedentrepreneur.co. If you're interested in writing and launching your own nonfiction book so that you could grow your business, get more credibility, or turn that dream of writing a book into your reality, feel free to DM me on Instagram at Jake Kelfer. And then if you just want to chop it up, hang out, or get to know me a little bit more, follow me on Instagram at Jake Kelfer. That's probably the best way to get in touch with me. So those are things we're working on, and how we can stay in touch.
Brilliant. Jake, thank you so much for joining me today for the Talk4 show. It's been a great one.
I appreciate you, man. Thanks for having me on. It was a blast.
Brilliant. Thank you guys for listening. See you in the next episode. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Until the next time, signing off for now.